Hey, what's up guys? Today, I'll show you a horror thriller film, HELLBLAZERS. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a group of cult members gathered around a fire in a forest. The cult members are all shown to be wearing uniform robes, and then their leader mentions that tonight they will quench their thirst for the manifestation of their beliefs. He says this because a perfect subject is approaching them nearby. Suddenly, an innocent man is forcefully dragged and presented to the cult members. The leader rejoices and orders the innocent man to be thrown into a pit of fire so that he can be used as a vessel. Meanwhile, an old man in a wheelchair named Oldie sits next to his wife's grave and mentions how much he misses her. Suddenly, he hears the screams of the innocent man and rushes to the scene to see what's going on. Oldie spots the cult as they throw the innocent man into the pit of fire and they start chanting a demonic incantation. After a brief moment, a scary demon with mutated muscles emerges from the flames, and he is wearing the same clothes as the innocent man. The leader talks to the demon and mentions that he and his cult are now his slaves, so he can order them to do as he pleases. Sensing the demon's hunger, the leader mentions that someone has to feed the demon, but nobody responds, so the leader decides to do it himself. Oldie watches on in horror and cannot believe his eyes, so he tells his imaginary dead wife that they have a huge problem on their hands. The next day, we meet a bike boy who delivers newspapers across his neighborhood by riding his Tesla bicycle. A grumpy man is looking for his bad-tempered dog but can't find him, so he keeps calling out to his dog, hoping for a response. Now, a troubled sheriff sits in his car and sneaks a drink into his smelly mouth because he has to deal with transferring from New York City to a small town. Sheriff gets interrupted by a man named Cap, who tells him that he'll like the small town even though he's not used to the culture. Anyway, Sheriff enters the station and asks his team members, Dashing and Rookie, what's on the to-do list for today. He is surprised when he learns that the worst cases are missing snowmen and raccoon invasions. Sheriff gets even more pissed off when he makes a horror movie reference from Daniel CC Movie Channel, and his team isn't able to understand it. Now we are taken to the local bar, where the bartender goes about her cleaning routine by dancing her hot body around without a care in the world. Dashing walks in on her and asks for a coffee, so she gladly obliges to his charming smile. They talk about the new sheriff, after which a bald man named Baldy walks into the bar. He also asks about Sheriff and expresses concern for him and his hair, but bartender tells him he'll be fine. Now, Baldy asks Dashing about his mom, but he doesn't want to talk about it, so he walks away from the bar. Baldy now encourages bartender to flirt with Dashing before Dashing loses his hair because he's a good kid and they will make a great couple. Dashing goes back to meet Sheriff at the station, where Oldie makes a sudden appearance with his shotgun. Sheriff isn't too excited to see Oldie, but then Oldie explains in an absurd fashion how he saw the cult members carrying out their ritual with the innocent man and the demon. Sheriff clearly doesn't believe his old bullshit, but still listens to him, while he explains how he saw the gates of hell opened up to allow the demon to pass through to this world and possess the innocent man. Sheriff's pessimism leads to a back and forth between both men. Oldie doesn't hold anything back and openly insults Sheriff, while at the same time, he calls himself a jerk as well. Suddenly, Grumpy walks into the station and asks Sheriff to help him find his missing dog. However, Oldie starts scolding Grumpy because he never puts a leash on his Grumpy dog. Things get heated up when Oldie refers to Grumpy's dog as Mexican, so Dashing has to take Grumpy out of the station to avoid further conflict. Now, Sheriff promises Oldie that he will look into the demon situation, even though he isn't very enthusiastic about it. Oldie gets into a different zone and starts talking about his time in Vietnam. After a while, he leaves, but without his shotgun. Sheriff doesn't know if this is considered to be normal behavior, but Rookie tells him that Oldie is known for being weird. Now, Sheriff makes his way to a radio station, where an old woman named Wrinkle is talking to her son. Sheriff asks her son to leave the room so that he can have some privacy with Wrinkle, and then he asks her if she's noticed anything suspicious about her listeners. Wrinkle doesn't give Sheriff any information, but he keeps insisting if there was anything interesting she'd heard the previous night. Wrinkle eventually states that there was a missing man reported on the radio, but he is mostly going to be someone who's tired of his boring wife and is looking for fresh hormones. Sheriff asks Wrinkle to keep an eye out for more news, but she tells him not to go looking for trouble. Dashing drives his police car on the road and has a chat with Rookie over the radio. But then, he notices a fallen bicycle on the road, next to a puddle of blood. Realizing that the Tesla bicycle belonged to Bite Boy, Dashing looks around and spots the cult members staring at him, but they vanish a few seconds later. Panicked and distressed, Dashing gets into his car and drives away, before he faces the same fate as Bite Boy. Now, a young couple gets freaky with each other, but something keeps shaking up their car, intending to shake their smelly hormones off. The girl asks the boy to go see if everything is alright, so he does as she says. However, the boy is immediately killed by the demon in front of the girl's eyes. Soon enough, the demon comes for the girl as well, and she lets out a horrified scream. Later, Oldie notices some of the cult members walking toward him, but he openly mocks them all, and even compares them to little children. The cult members flex their weapons to try and scare him, but Oldie simply orders them to take 5 steps toward him because he looks at himself as if he is their teacher. The cult members are confused and angered by this, but they move forward regardless. Suddenly, one of the cult members trips a wire and gets blown away by one of Oldie's traps, much to the cult's surprise. Oldie lets out a dying laugh at the cult members, so another one walks towards him, but he also falls victim to another trap. With only one cult member remaining, Oldie taunts him further, and this pushes the cult member to charge at him, despite knowing that there might be another trap for him. As expected, the cult member gets caught in a bear trap, and Oldie reveals to him that he's been holding hand grenades this whole time. Oldie finally detonates the grenades, and it causes an explosion that seemingly kills him, as well as the cult member. At night, the demon experiences a painful transformation and rolls around his bed. He eventually grows a couple of horns and becomes even more terrifying. The next day, Sheriff has some coffee at a diner and is introduced to a waitress by the diner owner. Waitress seems to like Sheriff's handsome face, but Sheriff gets informed of the explosion that has just happened near Oldie's place. Sensing something suspicious, Sheriff heads out to check on Oldie with Rookie, much to Waitress' disappointment. Now Cap and Wrinkle's son try to make a phone call, but the lines are dead, so they go to Wrinkle's place. Her phone lines seem to be off as well, and then Wrinkle jump scares the boys with a sudden appearance. Wrinkle and the two check in on the radio signals and eavesdrop on Dashing telling Rookie that he's entering town right now. They rush out of Wrinkle's home and find Dashing, who has just arrived. They ask Dashing what's going on, and he reveals that he saw Bike Boy's body, which was why he came back to town. Dashing suspects Oldie to have something to do with this, and reveals that Sheriff and Rookie are going to Oldie's place right now. Sheriff and Rookie reach the scene of the crime, where they find the remains of the victims of Oldie's traps. Suddenly, Sheriff alerts Rookie because she is about to step on a mine without even realizing it. Now, Sheriff finds Oldie's fallen wheelchair, so he goes to investigate it. However, when he turns around, he finds the demon standing right behind Rookie. In a brutal sequence, the demon crushes Rookie's head with his bare hands, while Sheriff looks on in disbelief. The demon now makes his way towards Sheriff, so he pulls out his gun in an attempt to shoot him. It is implied that Sheriff gets killed off, as we hear the demon attacking him. Back in the town, a cult member is seen holding a knife, after which Dashing has a word with the rest of the townsfolk as he's unable to reach Sheriff through the radio. Cap goes to his car so that he can go look for Sheriff, but notices that the battery has been damaged, possibly caused by the cult member. Meanwhile, Bartender takes out the trash, but runs into some other cult members, who attack her blonde body with their knives. She cries out for help with her chicken voice, and she is heard by Dashing, who immediately rushes to save her. Dashing kills one of the cult members with his gun, but is attacked by another one, and they wrestle their muscles. Luckily, Bartender uses her shovel to smash the cult member and beat his head to the ground. Dashing gets her to calm down, but then they have to rush inside the bar in order to avoid the other cult members. Baldy steps out to fight the cult members and even smacks a few of them, but he gets stabbed multiple times, seemingly to his tragic death. Now Cap hears some suspicious noises, so he takes his gun to check where these sounds are coming from. A cult member tries to attack Cap from behind, but he's able to quickly turn around and kill him with his gun. Cap remains alert and watches out for other cult members. Now Dashing and the others take refuge inside the bar and try to figure out a plan of defense, but there aren't any guns around to help them. They want to call the police for help, but realize that they are the police. Now, Cap finds another cult member and decides to have a fight to the death with him, so he lays down his gun and picks up a crowbar. However, another cult member shows up and Cap realizes that he is greatly outnumbered. He quickly picks up his gun, but inexplicably shoots a few cans of explosive gas and triggers a dangerous explosion that immediately kills him, as well as the other cult members. Dashing and the others hear the explosion, so Dashing decides to go get his revolver from the station, but the others think it's too dangerous. Now, Cap's friend comes to look for him, but is dragged and killed by the demon, while Waitress watches on from the diner. Suddenly, she and the diner owner are attacked by some cult members, and only Waitress is able to escape with her life intact. She is about to be struck, but is luckily saved by Wrinkle, who shoots down a cult member and takes Waitress to the bar. Unfortunately, Wrinkle has run out of shotgun shells, so Dashing reinforces that he really needs to go to the station to get more weapons. Waitress reveals that she saw the deadly demon outside, devouring people, but she isn't able to explain what the demon looks like. The others don't take her words seriously, and then Dashing finally convinces the team to let him leave for the station. Wrinkle notices that the cult members are taking away the dead bodies of their deceased comrades, but doesn't understand what's happening to these bodies. It is assumed that these bodies are being fed to the demon to make him stronger. Dashing makes his way out of the bar, but is confronted by 3 cult members with nothing but a baseball bat to defend himself. Things are about to get worse for Dashing, but then Sheriff miraculously shows up to shoot down the cult members. He takes Dashing to the station where they stock up on ammo, and Sheriff explains what the demon looks like, which bears 2 ugly horns. Dashing asks Sheriff how he managed to get away from the demon, but Sheriff says that he wined it, dined it, and Claymore mined it. Dashing doesn't understand the reference, so he asks where Sheriff has been all this time. Sheriff answers that he was hiding at Oldie's farm. Dashing directs Sheriff to more ammunition, and they plan to get rid of the cult members as well as the demon. Dashing radios to Bartender and the others to inform them about the situation. However, Wrinkle's son gets distracted, and a cult member stabs him through the closed door of the bar. Panic ensues as Wrinkle tries to save her son's life, but it is all in vain. Meanwhile, Dashing makes his way outside the station, but struggles to fight against the cult members. He eventually comes out on top by using his gun, but when he gets to the bar, he notices that Wrinkle's son has died. Now Sheriff kills a bunch of cult members, but then he's confronted by the leader, and they get into a fight to the death. A tense battle follows, but Sheriff emerges the victor and smashes the leader's head to onion pieces. With only the ugly demon left, Sheriff takes a chainsaw and traces its demonic smell in the middle of a few Christmas trees. A tense sequence follows as the demon taunts Sheriff in a game of cat and mouse. Sheriff finally decides that enough is enough, so he brings out his explosive shotgun and uses it to kill the demon with a direct hit. Dashing, Bartender, and Waitress come out of hiding and are finally reunited with Sheriff. Afterward, they walk away feeling relieved. The movie ends with a tape recording showing Bartender answering some cops about the bizarre events in her town. It is strongly believed that the rest of her team is now dead. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.